It's designed to be more toxic than the spray form, and it has properties of a known allergen. So now what we're seeing in India are hundreds, maybe thousands of workers who touch the BT cotton are reporting allergic reactions. The same allergic reactions as those that were reported by the 500 people in North America. Sneezing, runny nose, watery red eyes, itching, burning, inflammation, swelling skin. Some had fever, some went to the hospital. Here's a picture that I received last week from a different region in India than the particular study I just pointed to. And the person said that in the 2 to 3 years since the BT cotton, many people have had itching all over their bodies, eruptions, wounds, and discoloration. On October 26th of this year, the Sunday India newspaper reported that hospital records show that victims of itching have increased massively this year, and all of them are related to BT cotton farming. A pharmacy manager said almost every cotton worker from this village suffers from itching. Not a day passes by without a few of them coming to purchase medicines for it. In 2006, it was reported that when they let sheep graze on the cotton plants after harvest, within 5 to 7 days, 1 out of every 4 sheep died. In February of this year, some colleagues in India did a little study. They took 9 sheep. They let 3 of them graze on genetically engineered Bolgard 1, 3 of them on genetically engineered Bolgard 2, and 3 of them on natural cotton plants. This was after harvest. They noted a progression of symptoms just among the groups fed GM. First of all, they reduced their food intake. Then there was swelling lips, frothy salivation, nasal discharge. Then bulging of the heads, then a slight fever, and then between day 25 and 30, there was 100% mortality among the 6 animals fed BT plants. Those 3 that were fed non-BT had no symptoms. About 10 days ago, I received an email from someone in India about buffaloes and cows in an area northwest of Delhi. Turns out the buffaloes most refused to eat BT cotton and seed and oil cake. Those that did had prolapsed uteruses, many of them premature deliveries, most. Abortions became very common. The age of conception advanced up to 2 years. Milk is so important from these buffaloes, and yet there was a reduction in the milk supply and the fat content and the taste quality. There were skin problems and lots of deaths among both adult and calves. So, one thing that I do is I always consider this area my responsibility, because food is all of our responsibility. And I've noted that the reason why GMOs are on the market is because systematically governments and individuals and companies have done just the opposite. They've said, someone else's responsibility. You ask a business, well, what about your GMOs? The FDA has said it's safe. You ask the FDA, they say, oh, no, Monsanto has said it's safe. I talked to a Monsanto scientist, a former Monsanto scientist this year, about RBGH. He said, yeah, I knew 3 scientists who were doing safety studies on RBGH for Monsanto, and all of them switched to organic milk. So they also said it's not our responsibility. Someone else will make the decision. We won't eat it. So I look at this and say, no, what can I do? So I emailed this person that sent it to me and said, maybe we can help fund some video of what's going on and do an investigation. So yesterday we secured funding. We didn't have any money. We were a poor organization, but I put it out there. And then I found a funder yesterday, and we're going to send $2 2 veterinarians and a reporter and a film crew to leave next week.
I went to one village in Andhra Pradesh, and for 7 or 8 years they allowed their buffalo to graze on cotton plants after harvest. But on January 3rd of last year, they allowed their animals to graze on BT cotton for the first time. And they grazed for 1 day. The next day, they were either unconscious or unable to move, and the vets couldn't revive them. After 3 days, they were all dead, all 13. They also told me that their 26 sheep and goats had died. The post-mortem showed holes in the lungs, the liver was darker, flattened, and dry, and there was undigested food in the rumen. The rumen is like the early stomach, which it usually breaks down the cellulose through microorganisms. So it raised the question, does BT toxin kill the rumen bacteria?
Now, the cotton problems, I talk a lot about health dangers, and that's strategic. Because if I want people to avoid eating GMOs, many people can hate Monsanto, many people can be concerned about the environmental impacts, the patenting of life, the concentration of the ownership of farming, all these terrible problems associated with GMOs. But to get people to change lifelong eating habits and to switch brands, it's more about the health. But there are other things about GMOs that are very, very dangerous. In fact, the environmental impact may be far worse than the health impact. Why? Because the genetic pollution we're putting into the environment is self-propagating. The genes we put into the gene pool, that genetic pollution, can outlast the effects of global warming and nuclear waste. We are altering our biosphere, maybe irreversibly. We don't have a technology today to fully clean it up. We can reduce it dramatically, but today we cannot pull the contamination of GM corn out of the indigenous corn varieties in Mexico. They want to introduce, in 2 years, genetically engineered insects. They want to introduce genetically engineered salmon. Imagine trying to do a recall. Now, one of the aspects of GMOs is that we have all these unpredicted side effects for health, but there's unpredicted side effects in the environment. When they planted this BT cotton, Monsanto bought the seed companies in India and pushed the BT cotton in certain areas, in some cases removing the availability of non-BT seed. They had spiritual leaders push their cotton. Bollywood actors push their cotton. And they convinced hundreds of thousands of farmers to take out loans to invest in the cotton and the agricultural chemicals that would allow them to become rich. And in many cases, the cotton failed. And there has been farmer suicides. On November 3rd, the Daily Mail in the UK gave us an idea of how many farmer suicides. About 125,000. So, our food supply is under attack. Our farmers are under attack. This is something that needs to be handled immediately. To finish up about BT, 12 cows died on a German farm after being fed exclusively a certain variety of BT corn. About 25 farmers in the Midwest say that their pigs or cows became sterile from varieties of BT corn. In the Philippines, a village of about 100 people developed skin, respiratory, and intestinal reactions and fever while breathing in the BT pollen during the time of pollination. They took the same seeds and planted them in 4 more villages. The same symptoms returned in all 4 villages during the time of pollination. Though the symptoms were different than the cotton farmers. Some of them were the same, but they also had headache, stomach ache, dizziness, diarrhea, vomiting, weakness, and numbness. And there were deaths among horses, water buffaloes, and chickens, and 5 unexplained human deaths.